It's just all about love and life and living in freedom. That's what it's all about for me now.
Welcome to the Rich Spencer podcast. This is Alexis, and I am sitting here recording in a robe. I spend my life in robes, and this particular robe, a friend sent me, and I just listen, I'm one of those people, I value things that my friends give me because I'm one of those people, like, I think about it in the sense of this person was in a store and they were shopping around and they saw something that reminded them of me. And not only did it remind them of me, but they wanted to spend their hard earned money giving me something. I'm always touched by that. I'm always touched by that. And I'm the person, I keep all of the cards, all of the gifts, all of the anything that someone has given me, I keep it. And I pretty much keep it forever. Forever. I have letters still that friends sent me in the 90s. Okay. I have letters that I was sent in my college dorm from friends. I still have those things. And I look back at them sometimes and I read them and think about, the things that we're talking about in those letters and how we thought that we had the answer to all of life's problems. I like looking at those things, and those things are important to me. Friends are so important to me. And I have been thinking a lot about how completely polarized this country is and how difficult that must be for so many people whose friends may have voted a different way. I mean, not my friends. Not my friends. We have the same values. And that's the thing too. So many people are navigating these relationships now. As polarized as we are as a country right now, people are ending relationships. They're ending friendships. And some people say, well, you don't end a friendship over politics, or politics has nothing to do with my friendship. I think that that is true. When we're talking taxes, perhaps. But when we are talking values, I can't overlook it. I can't have a friend who doesn't believe in justice for all, who doesn't believe in equality. I can't have a friend who is sexist and homophobic and, of course, racist. I can't have a friend who's xenophobic. And so those are values things for me. And my values are big things. Not only are people having to navigate new terrain with friendships, but they're also doing it with their family members. They're like, so that's a part that I really don't understand. People who are like, oh my gosh, it's so hard continuing this relationship with this family member and that family member because they're MAGA. And I'm like, why do y'all love y'all family so much? I don't understand why we're trying to work out relationships with our MAGA cousins. I kind of understand the family thing only in the sense that I see that people have ridiculously low acceptability standards for family members as opposed to others, which has always been weird for me also. I think the people who are closest to us should actually be held at a higher standard. I also think that that should be a high standard for how they treat you as well. But society has somehow convinced people that their family could actually get away with anything while their friends should be held at such a high standard. I actually think we should hold all people at a high standard, but especially people that have the closest access to us. I'm not a very family oriented person. I'm a friend oriented person. I'm a person who, the people who have been there for me over the years, in my highest highs and my lowest lows, have been my friends. The first people to show up for me at the hospital have been my friends. The first people to send me cards or text messages or to just check in to see if I'm okay. Those people are my friends. The people who support my projects, those have been my friends. The people who show up on the big night have been my friends. The people who say congratulations have been my friends. The consistency and commitment of those relationships have been pivotal for me. And so I have always known how important it is for me to choose friends. I mean, if you have a friend who has turned MAGA, this is somebody that you have chosen, and this person has turned MAGA, I don't know what you talk about now. What do you talk about knowing that you don't have the same values? What do you discuss? Just your Starbucks order? You know, what do you say when your friend is essentially joined a cult? You don't talk about the cult. You just act like nothing's happening. That's kind of what a cult does. My friendships are about respect. They're about our values. And that for me allows me to not only respect them, but to lean into them, to listen to them when they are going through something, to listen to them when I'm going through something and may need their sage advice. And though my friends don't necessarily have to agree with me on politics, but my friends do have to agree that all people should have the same rights. My friends have to believe that to their core, and they don't have to just say it. They need to live it. That's important to me. And even though our lives may be different, we share those same values. I love my friends. I respect my friends. I'm there for my friends. And I would trust my best friend with my life. My friendships are serious. My other friends, they've been consistent and I've been grateful. Friends are so important because you know what? I remember the first friend who taught me how important genuine friendships are. So there was this girl, right, in elementary school, and her name was Julie P. I'm not going to say her last name, but her name was Julie P. And she and I were not friends. Like, I had my group and she had her group, and we were both kind of popular, but I was popular in the sense that I was the only Black girl in the school. So people knew me, but it wasn't necessarily an environment that encouraged me to be my best self. It wasn't an environment that responded well to my strong sense of self and self-esteem. It was always an environment that wanted to keep me and put me in my place. That was not just the staff of the school, the nuns, and the teachers. It also trickled down to the female students. And she was a part of that group of girls who their families were wealthy. They were popular in school, and we just didn't really feel each other until their ringleader, Julie, decided one day in the 3rd grade that she wanted to be my friend. And I was like so excited. Wow, Julie wants to be my friend. Here's a group of girls that I don't deal with, and they want to be my friend. Like, I was open to it. And so we were friends for a good 2 days. Julie P. and her crew were my friend. Then Julie had the nerve to tell somebody, I'm not really Alexis's friend. She thinks she's hot shit. I'm just pretending to be her friend. Well, that person told me. And so I had my eye on Julie P. and I let her know, I know that you're not my friend. You know, I know that you're not my friend because you told Michelle that you weren't my friend. And so, fuck you, basically. That was my feeling. Fuck you and anybody who thinks you are something, okay? I don't give a damn about you or your crew. 3rd grade crew. I never forgot that. I was annoyed that she tried to trick me into this friendship, but I was more hurt because at the end of the day, I was open to being friends with her. I was open to being friends with her group of friends. Until that moment, I hadn't really experienced people playing friend. I'd only experienced people being it as much as they could be at that age. But I am a person who is also notoriously unforgiving. So about 4 years ago, I was telling this story to actually a group of colleagues at the time and talking about how this girl, Julie P., tried my whole life. She didn't want to be my friend. She talked about me. She said I thought I was hot shit. I looked her up because I was just curious. Like, what had become of her? You know, what was her life like? Had she matured over the years? Was she working a job where she was saving lives? Did she have a family? Did she have a dog? Had she traveled to Europe? Had she joined the Peace Corps? There could have been so much that Julie could have done. And I don't know what Julie did. Because all I know is that I looked Julie up on Beyonce's internet and Julie was dead. Yo, rest in peace, Julie P. There was another girl named Naja who pretended to be my friend. That was like maybe in the 6th grade, but I don't really give a damn about her because her life went to shit, I heard. So fuck you, bitch. There was a time also, like when I was in school, when I was younger, I thought friends were validating on some level. I was always the sort of kid that was popular, but I wasn't necessarily always liked. Like everybody knew who I was, but they did think I was kind of mean. And I wasn't mean. I was just trying to navigate a world where I felt everything. And when I say I felt everything, I felt everyone's discomfort. I felt everyone's joy. I also felt people's pain. I also had a very strong personality who didn't understand that if we played school, why I couldn't be the teacher to tell everybody what the fuck to do. I was that person. And then I also was raised in this society that was always trying to tell me how to fix myself, that I wasn't enough, that I had to do this in order to be liked, and you have to do this in order for people to accept you. And God forbid that you don't have male attention. What will you do then? I'm getting all these messages thrown at me. And at the heart of it, at the core of my being, I didn't give a fuck. I did not care about any of the things that society was telling me I needed to care about. You know what I cared about as a kid? Love. I cared about love. I thought about love all of the time, not just romantic love, but the love I felt for my dad. I thought about that love and what that love would look like when I was an adult. The love I felt for, friends of mine, the love I felt for my teachers. I thought about that kind of thing all of the time. And what did I want? I wanted to be worthy of that love. And that puts us in more of a defensive posture. It wasn't until later in life that I understood that not only am I worthy of that love, I am that love. Love will just come because there's an abundance of it. And not only is there abundance of it, I am oozing it. And it just told me that what I have is very precious. My friends matter to me. They're sacred to me. I had this one friend when I was in the 5th grade, our friendship began, and her name was Ana Duenas. I had just left Catholic school and she was my friend. I loved her. She seemed just so mature. I grew up pretty privileged and I lived in a nice big house out in the country, and I grew up just not wanting for anything. Anna grew up in a migrant camp. Her parents were migrant farmers, and Anna grew up not wanting for anything. We had 2 different lives, and our realities, though, in those lives felt the same. We didn't grow up with a sense of material lack, for sure. And I remember the first time I went over Anna's house, and I wasn't allowed to go to many people's homes. It was the first time I went over there, and how the migrant farm was set up, it was a bunch of little shacks and they would share an outhouse. Well, Anna had a house at the camp. So she had a full on, 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom home that was lovely. And her mom used to sell Mexican candies and Mexican food out of the kitchen. And I used to love going over there, and people would come to the door and I would be taking the order like I worked there. And it was such a time to be in her house, to be loved and protected by her family. And Anna's dad would let us take the car. Anna would drive. We were 10. And Anna would take her dad's car and we would drive to the store. And I remember her mom saying, okay, don't let Alexis drive. But she would let me drive sometimes in the backwoods, and that was a mess. But our relationship meant so much to me because I felt so not only loved and seen by her as my friend, but loved and seen and protected by her entire family. When I would walk around the migrant camp with Anna, people got used to seeing this little Black girl there because I was there so much. But she was my friend and I loved her. I loved her so much. And what I loved, looking back on it, I loved the difference in our experiences in our lives that interested me. It interested me to know more about her family. Her dad was some sort of manager, and it was just interesting to see the respect that people in the camp gave to him. It was interesting to see how protective he was of us. I love the way that we loved each other in the way that we did. I love the way that we talked about our dreams and how our dreams looked very different even at that age. And I was really saddened when our friendship ended, and our friendship ended because her family moved back to Texas a few years later and we lost touch. And I've always thought about her. I've never forgotten her. She has always been in my heart and always will be. Friends have always been really important to me. As a middle-aged woman, I hear a lot of people talking about their friends in a very different way than I feel. I hear people say, particularly other Black women, I don't need friends. I'm good. I'm good. I don't need friends. Not everybody can be your friend. Not everybody should be your friend. I have a tight circle and that's all I need in the circle. I don't need anybody else. I don't want, I don't trust, all of that. And they say this to people who are acquaintances. Right? When you say that in the presence of acquaintances, like for a person like me, that already lets me know that our relationship will only go so far. And the reason our relationship will only go so far is because you are not open to receive the love that I have to give readily. When I hear people talking about they don't want friends or they don't have room in their lives for friends, what I hear are people who have been hurt and people who are afraid of vulnerability. And at this point in my life, I am open for abundance. At this point in my life, my circle can get larger because I've gone through enough in life to understand that the more people who love you in your life, the better your life is. I don't run from vulnerability. When I hear those things, when I hear someone say, I don't have time for friends, I don't want to make space for friends, usually it's people who are suffering from chronic loneliness. I want my life to be so full of love that it is spilling over into the next life. The type of friend that I am, though, I'm not the type of friend that you can put down and pick up later. I see a lot of things online where people are saying, well, you know what? I'm not the type of friend that you have to call and text every day. I'm not the type of friend I can talk to you in a year and know that we're going to pick up right where we left off. Not me. Not me. I do everything with passion. I love my friends passionately. I romance my friends. I think of my friends often. I say good morning to my friends. I will send a picture of a flower to a friend because my friend wore this exact color, butter yellow, and that is the color of these roses. And so she just has to see the color that matched her beauty. I do those sort of things for my friends. My friends are an investment for me, and the return I get is endless. And some people don't want that type of friend. Some people don't want the type of friend that they have to actually make an effort for. Not me. I want to know more. I'm the type of person, if you don't go deep with me, you don't go far with me. I like the friendships that I don't have to think about because I know that you were there. I know that I'm going to hear from you Friday at 10:30. And why? Because 10:30 is right after your 9:30 meeting, and you're going to tell me about all the bullshit that happened during the 9:30 meeting. And I'm going to be like, "Was that bitch there?" And you're going to say, "No, she's on vacation, so the meeting went well." It's that kind of thing. I'm a friend who champions for her friends. If someone passes away in your family, I'm that friend who is there. I am checking on you every day. I'm sending you cards and letters. And 6 months after your loss, I'm thinking about you because I know what it is like when all of the people go away. I'm the friend who doesn't go away. I have experienced friend heartbreak a couple of times in life. I had a friend one time who was a compulsive liar. And here is the thing. I knew that he was a liar. This was at a time where my standards weren't as high. And we became friends because we worked together. The reason I stayed friends with him, even though I knew that he was a compulsive liar, I stayed friends with him because he was fun. So it was more of an acquaintance, but I realized the time I invested in this acquaintance, it just wasn't worth it. He lied about everything. He lied about where he was from. He lied about what his parents did. He lied about his childhood. He lied about his education. He lied about a health crisis. But I excused it because I thought he's lying out of an insecurity. He's obviously insecure. That's the only reason that you would lie about this. I found out that this motherfucker was lying about a health situation. And then I was like, I lost respect for him. He was lying for no reason. I've experienced a friend breakup. Not everybody is in the same place where they can be vulnerable, where they can be open. I think as we get older, unfortunately, especially with women, is that our hearts become more calloused. And as your hearts become more calloused, you are unwilling to take a chance on the tender part of you again. When friendships don't work out, people are hurt. And instead of talking about the hurt, what they talk about is the anger. I'm mad that this person treated my friendship like it was a dollar store trinket. Probably not since my early 30s have I ever tried to work out anything with a friend. When my father died, when I was 34, that loss taught me so much about what's truly valuable in my life. Until that moment, I hadn't really experienced such a significant loss. It shook me to my core. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I was going. I did not know up from down. There were two things that I was sure of when that happened. I was sure that I would survive it. I was sure of that. Unhappily so at times. And I was also sure that I would never be happy again. I remember lying in my bed thinking, I will never be happy again. How am I going to get up every morning of this life knowing that joy will always escape me? And then one day I felt joy again. And that joy I felt was because of a friend, because of my best friend, actually. So at that time, it allowed me to reframe relationships in my life, to think about what I give to people and how I give it to people and how I express myself to them and how I love them. I love very intentionally. We are here to love each other. We are here to experience each other to the fullest. And I like to experience my friends. I want to know what you had for breakfast. I want to know the big mistake you made and how you're not going to make that ever again. I want to be able to be transparent with my friends because transparency is trust. So I want to be able to trust people. And the reason, though, I realize the reason that I can do this is because I feel safe within my body. When I say that I feel safe within my body, I know that there is nothing that can happen to me where I wouldn't be okay. I know that even if you break my heart, that my heart will go on. Okay, Celine Dion. I know that God did not stop making me lovable because you stopped loving me. I know that I can survive. I think about my friend Leah. My friend Leah Orlando is the woman's voice that you hear at the beginning of this podcast saying it's all about love and life and living in freedom. Leah was diagnosed with cancer when she was 44 years old. She died 2 years later on September 8th of 2011. I remember it like it was yesterday because it was my birthday. Leah and I had a beautiful friendship all during my early 20s, and she was like the big sister. We were over 10 years apart. She was like a big sister of mine. I loved her down. We always kept in touch, even as our lives changed, even as I moved at that time from Florida to Arizona. Leah and I talked every Saturday morning. We would get on the phone. Never an argument, just love, just a good time. And I ended up moving back to Florida, and Leah and I had our first and only falling out. I was stunned that it happened, to tell you the truth. You know, I handled a situation in a certain way, and Leah didn't appreciate it. And she told me. And she told me that she was hurt, and I was hurt that she was hurt. So we had a conversation. The conversation did not go well. I will say there was no disrespect or anything like that, but the conversation did not go well. And we didn't talk. And 1 week went to 2 weeks. And that went to 3 weeks and 4 weeks and 5 weeks and 6 weeks. And before I knew it, Leah and I hadn't spoken for like months. And I remember looking at the calendar one day thinking, wow, when is she going to call me? Because I'm not calling her. When is she going to call me? And eventually we did talk. I don't remember when, but we did have a conversation. And it was brief and it was awkward. And I think I may have called her. Nah, probably not. She probably called. But, it was a brief conversation and it felt awkward. And I was like, okay. Well, she's moved on. She obviously has other friends and she's living her life, and I have other friends and I'm living my life. But I missed her. And I never said that during our conversation. So the conversation ended. We went on with life. And I saw her one day, and I saw her and I knew that she saw me, and our eyes locked. I was going to continue up the stairs because I wanted to avoid her, because in that moment, seeing her face, I felt extremely vulnerable. I felt so exposed, and I didn't like that feeling. It felt very uncomfortable for me. So I was like, let me haul my ass up these stairs. And she grabbed me. She came over to me and she grabbed me and she hugged me and she held me close. And she just said, I love you. I love you. I love you. I said, I love you too. She said, I miss you. I love you. And I was like, I gotta go. And she was like, I love you. She just kept saying it and she just kept holding me. And she said, I want to see you. We gotta talk. And I said, we will. I said, I'm gonna call you. She said, okay, I love you. And I remember going up the stairs and I had to fight back tears. And I was fighting back tears, not because she held me and told me that she loved me. I was fighting back tears because I loved her too. And I waited to tell her that. I waited to tell her. We did end up having lunch, and our friendship, I think, was stronger because we had that falling out. I learned a lot. And then later, Leah got diagnosed with cancer a few years later. She was diagnosed with cancer. It was stage 4. I think at the time they gave her like 6 months to live, but she ended up living 2 years after that. And they were the best 2 years of her life. I got to witness that journey I got to witness her getting married. I got to witness so many things, but what she became is one of my greatest teachers. I remember one time we were at lunch and I was having a conversation. And I was just like, okay, and this bitch said this. And then I'm upset about this because whatever, I'm going off about a situation. And she stopped me and she said, listen, your life is right now. This is your life right now in this very moment, and you will never get it back. Think about who you were giving your life and your energy to right now, because this is it. In this moment, we are right here having lunch. Where are you? I'll never forget that lesson. And when Leah died, I was at my birthday lunch. And her sister called and said Leah's husband had just called her and she had passed away. And it was my birthday. And I remember getting in the car. I was like, lunch over. Birthday lunch done. I get in the car and I'm driving home with my best friend. And we're at a stoplight, sitting at a stoplight. And there's a dragonfly that came. And the dragonfly tapped on this window, and then the dragonfly tapped on the windshield, and then went over to my best friend's side window, and then came back in front of me on the windshield and literally was tapping on the window. And I said to my best friend Lulu, I said, do you see that? She was like, yeah. Get to the house. I sit on the couch. I'm devastated at this point, just devastated. And I just didn't know what to do. And my best friend comes in after a few minutes, and there, I guess, had been a note left that a neighbor had some flowers for me. She went across the street, she got the flowers, and she brought them in, and I see these beautiful roses. And I looked at them, and I said, who are they from? And she just kind of gave me this look. I looked at the card, and they were from Leah. And I cried, and I laughed. And I felt like, wow, this is the perfect ending. Then I also said that bitch knew me very well because she knew I would never fucking forgive her for dying on my birthday. She knew I am not a forgiving person. Listen, and she knew that I would never forgive her for dying on my birthday. And I think about her every birthday. And so that's something that I have kept with me forever, how friends can shape our lives. My fear of vulnerability when it comes to friends ended with Leah. Because had I not been afraid to say, I love you, and I'm sorry that your feelings were hurt. I love you. I will do anything to repair this. I love you. I acknowledge the fact that you're hurt. I love you. Your presence in my life is important. We wouldn't have lost a year of our friendship. Yes, our friendship continued. Yes, our friendship was strong. Yes, we were together to the end and beyond because I still feel her with me. But we lost a year because I feared vulnerability, because I feared being the person to call and look like a lame calling her on the phone. And what if she rejected me? What if she said, I don't want to talk? I feared the hurt that would be associated with that. And because I was not safe in my skin enough to know that even if she rejected me, that was okay. All we are these like souls trying to connect to other souls. If we get through this life and we don't love people and allow them to love us, then what's the fucking point? My friends are my teachers. My friends are my soulmates. I have not had a falling out with a friend, actually, since Leah. She was and still is one of the most beautiful people I have ever known. And I am so lucky that I was able to call her friend. Half y'all don't even like your friends. I grew up with a lot of strong women around me, so I know when a bitch is acting funny. I know when the vibes aren't right. And so my discernment kicks in with knowing who to go deep with. You have to have friends who challenge you, who challenge what you think and challenge your ideas and test your patience, frankly. The truth of the matter is our lives are perfect, but they're perfect with each other. They're perfect with each other, but you have to operate from a sense of safety with that. I will be okay, even if this person slights me. Losses makes you think of all the wins. And my wins have been with my friends. My wins have been with my best friend. My best friend is for me. She is for me more than anybody I think in the world. My best friend is for me. Some of y'all got best friends who are talking about you right now. It's the little things for me that mean so much when it comes to friendship. Like, I don't play about my investments. I'm very serious about people. I'm very serious about the way that I love them. What I want to do is have more of that. I want to have more love, more openness, more transparency, more vulnerability. I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of it because at the end of the day, when I leave here, I want to know that I loved as much as I could possibly love. I did not turn my back on it. I recognized it. I accepted it. I was basking in it. I gave it. I gave it. I gave it. Now, I also want to be known as somebody you didn't fuck with. As we continue going through the things that we are going through as a world, as a country, as humanity in general, know that friendship is important, but also know that if you are hurt, that it's worth trying again with someone else. We need more friends, and a friend is not a nothing. I am that friend who will love you down. I'm also that friend who's going to curse somebody else out about you. And I want you to curse somebody out about me too. That's life's blood. I was just talking about you, friend. I was just talking about you. This entire episode is on friendship. And I said how my best friend is everything. My best friend has been there for me. My best friend is down for me. My best friend handles this recording like a boss. My best friend sets up the lights. My best friend sets up the camera. My best friend has never let me down. Thanks for listening to the Rich Spinster podcast, friend. Until next time.